You know, the truth of the matter is today we're facing a number of states' rights, state sovereignty issues as well. You've already heard a discussion. Jenny got up and talked to you about the Real ID Act. It's basically a national identification card that you'll have to carry around everywhere you go, just like in Nazi Germany in the 1920s and 30s, when everywhere you go you had to carry your papers because the Gestapo would stop you and ask you, "Let me see your papers." Now that's the exact same thing that the Real ID Act is. And the Georgia General Assembly has already passed legislation stating that the people of Georgia must comply with the federal Real ID Act.
Boo!
That has to be stopped. It has to be stopped.
That's right.
And it's not going to be stopped unless there's a governor in the governor's office here in Georgia who's willing to lead the way, who's willing to say it's unconstitutional, and to stand and interpose himself between the people and their liberties and an out-of-control federal government. It is the responsibility of governors to stand up for their people and for their liberties. Just several years ago, you probably are familiar with Chief Justice Roy Moore over in Alabama. Before he was Chief Justice, he was a judge there in Alabama. He had a display of the Ten Commandments, a plaque on the wall in his courtroom. And the federal court said, you've got to get that out of there, you've got to get rid of that, that's an unconstitutional thing you're doing. And he said, no, I will not remove it. And the governor at the time was a great man. His name was Governor Bob James. He stood up to Washington, D.C. in the federal government, and he said, you will not come and remove that display of the Ten Commandments from Judge Moore's chambers, from his courtroom. And if you try to come and do that, I'll have my state troopers standing there with M16s ready to meet you at the doors.
Yeah.
Did they remove that plaque off of Judge Moore's courtroom wall? No, not while Bob James was the governor of Alabama. But a man who was less of a man, who was a coward, who was spineless, replaced him in the next election, took his place after Bob James was gone. And as you know, Chief Justice Roy Moore, through private funds, erected that monument of the Ten Commandments that was put in the people of Alabama's judicial building. And the federal government again said, you've got to get that display of the Ten Commandments out of the judicial building there in Alabama. Chief Justice Roy Moore said, no, this building is under my authority. It will stay here as long as the people of Alabama allow it to stay here. The federal court said, no, you've got to get rid of it. Both the governor and the attorney general betrayed not only Chief Justice Roy Moore, but their own people, their own values, their own heritage, turned their back on their own people, and today the Ten Commandments are not in the building of the people of Alabama because they were betrayed by their leadership. That's the difference that leadership makes.